Hi, it's Helen Tarrant. Hi there, welcome to another episode of Commercial Property Roadshow with Helen Tarrant. Today what I'm going to share with you is actually about low valuations. How do you combat low valuations? The reason we talk about this is because right now in this current market we're experiencing some low valuations due to COVID. And really it's no fault of your own, but you might have gotten into a property and you might be thinking, well, that's the end of it. But let me tell you, in commercial property, it's very different from residential property. When you get a low valuation, it's actually just the start of the process. What happens is when you have a low valuation, you really should be celebrating. So in residential, we normally go, well, low valuations, that's it, you walk away from the deal. In commercial, we break out a champagne, have some chocolate and go, right, now the real game starts because we're going to start negotiating. You see, the thing is, low valuation is a moment in time. If that value has valued that property a moment in time, it's very, very subjective to that period in time and what's happening in the market. Now, I've had the same property been valued by the valuer, two valuers at the same time within a 3-month period, and they come back with different valuations. I've had the same valuer value the same property even within a couple of weeks, and they have different valuations. So it really is actually the valuer's opinion of that time. So it's one person's opinion of your property. It's not a defining thing of your property forever. It's just then. And most valuations last about 3 months, and current valuations, they always have a COVID clause in there to say that, you know, at the moment it's a COVID situation, is anomaly in the market, and there should be certain things that are taken account of, and risk may be higher during that time. So there's a disclaimer as well. So what I'm saying to you right now is what happens when you actually have a low valuation. Well, three things actually happen. So number one is that you and the vendor get very, very annoyed at each other and you walk away from the deal. So in that case, they suffer some legal fees and they suffer a loss. The agent doesn't make a sale, he's annoyed, and you've ended up with some legal fees, some due diligence fees, and the valuation fees. So maybe, $5 or $6 grand. That may be your loss. Your vendor has sustained pretty similar losses in terms of legal fees and preparing and getting marketing fees and everything else, and they have to start again. So sometimes, they could be a little bit more than your loss. So that's where both of you are at. But that's not the ideal scenario. The ideal scenario is actually going to option number 2. Option number 2 is about negotiation. So you try to cut a deal on the property. So if you're $100,000 apart, can you cut a deal $50,000 difference? Which means you have to pay $50,000 more for the property, and the vendor is going to give you a discount of $50,000. Now, if you have a tenant in there, that means that automatically you're actually getting a windfall. If you bought the property at 8% yield, so let's say you buy $500,000 property, and it comes in valuation-wise at $450,000, right? It's 8% of $500,000, so it's $40,000. But now you're buying this property for $450,000, you're actually getting a 9% yield. Now, if you cut a deal with the vendor and you're paying $25,000 each, so he comes down half, you come down half, you're paying $25,000 more, so you're paying $475,000, you actually got a discount of $25,000. Now, you're at 8.5% yield for that property in a market that you wouldn't have got 85.5% yield. And that is something worth celebrating, because even though you had to pay a little bit more, but at the end of the day, you're getting more cash flow in your pocket. And if this property is cash flow driven, and the whole point of it is to put cash flow in your pocket, the more you offer the price, the better. So therefore, your valuer has actually done you a service. They've actually valued the property lower, gives you a chance to have another bite of the apple, and you manage to negotiate a lower price on it, which means that you're getting instantly more cash flow coming into your pocket. And remember, it's a moment in time. And if you're going to hold that property for 2 or 3 years or 5 years in the future, this valuation becomes irrelevant after your lending, because as the market changes in the next 2 years, there will be more upward pressure over when confidence comes back on rents. And as a result of that, you are going to be able to, rent the premise perhaps a little bit more, or the rental, you can increase your rent a little bit higher in your market rents or rent review times, which means that then the property is ultimately worth more. So you actually are getting a really, really good service from the valuer. You should be sending him a champagne instead. So what really happens in that situation is that, yes, you have to have some more money out of pocket. Doesn't mean you can't refinance in 2 years' time and pull that money back out. It's just you need to have a bit more of a buffer. But also, during that time, what is great about it is that in this period, if they value the property at contract price or even just slightly lower, it's very, very conservative, because what the bank has given the valuer instructions is that you need to value the property conservatively. So that means that you're getting the utmost, most conservative valuation for that property. So the only way is up. So that's the benefit. You know that you're not paying inflated for this property. You know that you're paying dead on market or below market for this property. So it's absolutely, you're getting value for that. Now, number 3, the third option is that they reduce the actual price to meet the valuation price, which is fantastic for you if they do that. But often that comes with some conditions. So that condition can be that you have to relinquish part of the rent, and that's a private negotiation you might want to do with a vendor that if you can't come up with the 25,000, let's say the example 500,000, you have $40,000 in rent, and then it's 450,000, and you have to reduce it to 450,000 because you just don't have the 25,000. Well, one of the things you find that is now you're getting a 9% yield, which means that you're actually getting probably somewhere around 3 to 5 grand more. So you could offer the vendor that you could give them 5 grand, 4 grand, 3 grand for every year for the next 5 years while the tenant's there. This way, they're actually making up the 25K, and they feel a little bit better about giving you the discount. Or you might, if it's a situation where the vendor is becoming the tenant and they're leasing the property back, so it's what we call a lease back, sale and lease back, then they're just going to reduce the rent in proportion to the actual purchase price, or in the same yield as well. So the number 3rd option is to work out a equitable agreement or scenario where the vendor is giving you the discount and you're able to subsidize that discount in going forward in terms of a bit of a rental kickback or some kind of a part payment to them to pay off that additional amount. So there is 3 ways about doing it, but it's all about cutting a deal. It's about making the deal work, because right now, if you could get a discount and otherwise you can't, then you're actually putting more value into the property, more money into your pocket, and the only way is up. So don't despair when you get a low valuation. Instead, go out and celebrate, send the valuer some champagne, and start the negotiation. Take a deep breath, send out, and basically talk to the agent through it. And sometimes it does take a little while to work this through. It does take a little while for both the vendor and yourself to feel, a little bit at ease to be able to negotiate. Because remember, when you get a low valuation, both parties, including the agent, are really annoyed at this process. But it is about talking people through and being the mediator through this. So if you want more advice, or if you wanted me to help you in your commercial property journey, reach out to me, helentarrant.com, contact us. In the meantime, click the bell, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.